Today's episode is called An Easier Way to Change, and it's part of our Abundantly More series.
Hey, it's Amber, wife, mother, type A child of God. Here are little things we look at everyday issues from a biblical perspective with one simple goal: to know and love God more. Thanks for listening.
So often we feel like we're stuck in a rut. Wherever we are in life, we just feel like that's our place, even if it's not where we want to be. So for instance, maybe you're 5, 25, 100 pounds overweight, or you know that you're drinking more than you should. And yet you find yourself every night going through the same motions of going back to that liquor cabinet or reaching for another beer. Or you really aren't where you want to be in terms of being the mom or the dad that you'd like to be, but you're not quite sure how to change the relationship. Or maybe it's a work thing. Maybe you've been skating through for quite a while and you know you could do more with your time and energy, and yet you've just fallen into complacency and you don't really want to go through the steps to make anything else happen, but yet you know you could be doing so much more. So what do we do when we know that there's a change that we probably should make, and yet we're not quite sure how to get there? Well, interestingly enough, I came across a concept lately that's been sort of fun for me to explore. And this concept is this. It says to imagine the person that you want to be. So think who you would be ideally. If you could be anybody, what would that look like? What would you do with your time? What would you look like, physically look like? Would you be a certain weight? Would you be strong and fit? Would you have a certain job? What would your relationships look like? What would your walk with the Lord look like? And once you think about who that person would be, once you dream that person up, then write down how you think they would spend their time. So the ideal you, what time would they get up in the morning? What would they do first thing in the morning? Would they eat breakfast, or are they not a breakfast person? Do they go to the gym? Do they read their Bible? Do they read a book every night before bed, or are they sitting on the couch watching Netflix? What does your ideal person do? Write all those things down. What their average day would be. And of course, there's going to be some crazy days in there that they don't look like that. But overall, generally speaking, what would this person and their life look like? And then, after you've done all that, start to live that way even before you are that way. It's not that far out when you think about it. It's actually being deliberate and becoming the person you want to be before you are that person. Now, is it going to be easy? Probably not. In fact, I have found that more often than not, even if I decide at night I dream up the person and I can put down what they would be doing, in the morning when I wake up, I'm like, oh, but this Amber doesn't want to live that way. So there's always going to be a battle of the natures and the wills. Your sinful nature always wants to take the easiest route. Think of self and self only, not worry about how much you're getting done or how effective you could be, but wants the cushy lifestyle. And yet, there's also another part that really wants to do the things of God and be the best that you can be and be the most effective in your relationships and in God's kingdom that you can be. So, with all that said and done, we're going to look at a couple of Bible passages. And the first one we're going to look at is in Romans 8, starting at verse 34 and reading to 37, but we're going to skip 36. Who then is the one who condemns? Now I'm going to stop right there, because a lot of times when we're stuck in our rut, we are condemning ourselves, and we're even thinking that maybe God condemns us too. Again, when you're stuck in that cycle of drinking and it's what you're doing every day, and you know you don't want to be doing this, and there's this self-loathing that comes with it. Or when you have fallen off the bandwagon again and you've gained back a bunch of weight, there's a self-loathing of, oh man, I've screwed it up again. And there's the idea that maybe, just maybe, God is disappointed in you too. And yet the Apostle Paul in this book to the Romans says, who is the one who condemns? No one. Christ, who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? Skipping verse 36. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. The word condemnation or condemn is a strong disapproval. And since we know that Christ is not condemning us, in fact, not only is he not condemning us, but he is at the right hand of God, acting on our behalf. In other words, you're on Team Jesus, and he's your biggest cheerleader. And when you are looking to change and you're wondering if you can, look no further, because you are more than a conqueror. You're victorious. You are victorious before you even start. That's why you can live like the person you want to be before you're that person. You're already victorious. You can convince yourself a million ways that you're not, but that's not how God feels about you. So don't get trapped in that. Okay, moving on to Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform. In other words, do not adopt to behave according to the pattern of this world, but be transformed, which is to make a drastic change, by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. What is God's will in all of this? Do you think that it's God's will that you just throw in the towel and stay stuck with a house that you can never get clean, that seems overwhelming, with this weight that you can't seem to take off, that drinking issue or smoking or swearing or cussing, using God's name in vain? Do you think that's God's will? Because it's not, because he wants us to transform our minds. He wants us to think differently. He wants us to get a different pattern, a different habit. That's what this is saying. Change. And then act in accordance with God's will. Now, 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. Is this going to be a struggle? Yep, this is common to all of us. So if you're thinking, oh, but Amber, that's easy for you to say. You don't have 100 pounds. Or, Amber, I've been drinking for 20 years. Amber, I've been smoking since I was 8. Okay. Well, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. We've all had our issues that we've tried to overcome for years. God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so you can endure it. There will be a way out. And this is what I've learned. A lot of times we're not looking for that way out. We are diving headfirst into our bad habits and we don't care. The way out is there, but we're not looking for it. We're not noticing it. We honestly are just stuck. And that's not the way it is. God is going to give us a way out, and it will become easier every time. So what if you have fallen 500 times? That doesn't mean you have to keep falling again now. So as you start transforming your mind, as you start looking for the way out, it will become easier. You made it one night? Great. Try again tomorrow night. And when you fall, you get up and you say, well, that was a bad night. That doesn't mean I'm going to be stuck there. I'm not going to roll over. The whole thing with it doesn't matter how far you have to go. So losing 100 pounds starts with 1 pound. And cleaning out your house, your parents' house, whoever's house, starts with 1 room. It starts 1 hour at a time. And as you get one section cleaned out, that's 1 section you're done cleaning out. Is it overwhelming? Yep. Does it mean it's impossible? No, absolutely not. Hebrews 12, verses 1 to 2 say this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and just before this in Hebrews 11 is the by faith chapter. It's this wonderful chapter of the Bible where the writer of the book of Hebrews tells us about how all these patriarchs in the Bible lived by faith and how even though it wasn't easy, they trusted God and he got them through these incredible situations. So the whole chapter 11, it's the Hall of Fame where we call it the people who live by faith. And then the writer goes into saying, therefore, since we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses, since we have the testimony of all these people, since God made sure to include their stories in the Bible, let us throw off everything that hinders, every little thing that gets in our way, and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. How are we going to get through this? Not by looking at how far we have to go. We're going to get through this by looking at Jesus and looking to Jesus for the strength that we need to get through. So how is this going to work? What are our action plans here? First of all, who do you want to be? Write it down. I tend to just here today, gone tomorrow with things that I don't write down and make it a deliberate thing. Who do I want to be? I want to be an effective ministry leader in the kingdom of God who is a healthy weight, who gets enough sleep so that they have the energy that they need, who is productive and effective and doesn't get distracted by their phone or whatever. I want to be somebody who, is in the Bible daily. I want to be someone who knows the Bible enough to be able to share it with other people. Whatever your goal is, write it down. I have found with all of these things, there's a spiritual component in it. If I am not a healthy weight, if I'm not taking care of myself, I tend to be more sluggish. I tend to be not as confident. I tend to fall into other areas of sin, like watching more TV or sitting on my phone instead of running with perseverance, instead of being energetic and doing the things I need to do. When I'm not in the Word as much, man, oh man, it is a series of dominoes that fall. I know. I've seen it far too often when I just skim the Word, when I just get in the bare minimum, maybe 10 minutes a day, and I don't have time now, or because I'm working on this project, I'm in the Word then, so my personal Bible study isn't as important. Oh, there are so many things that start to go. I get emotional, and when I get emotional, I don't see the truth for what it is. I'm clouded by my own sinful nature and my view of things. It all becomes focused on me and myself, and how does this affect me and whatever. I easily slide into gossiping. Well, this person didn't help, and so clearly they don't. And making assumptions and all kinds of things. I have noticed that one thing physically often leads to spiritually also not being the person I want to be. So first of all, we're going to dream. Second of all, we're going to look at what a person's life might look like. And you know what? It's okay if you make adjustments as you go on. Third, you're going to actually try to live that way. And you might find, okay, the person I thought I wanted to be got up at 5 o'clock. But in reality, if I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I am not going to be there for my kids at 10:30 at night. And because of the season that my kids are in, that's not going to work for me. So scratch that a week later. The person I want to be actually gets up at 7. U-turns are totally acceptable. This is all a work in progress. But after you get that down and you start living who it is, make sure that you're also incorporating prayer and you're also finding someone who can walk alongside with you. So I've enlisted my husband. And one of the cool things that's happened throughout this process is I have wanted to get healthier again. I kind of fell off the bandwagon in a major way with all the things. There was a lot of stress going on. And anyway, Steve and I have started cooking together and going to the farmer's market and buying produce together. And this is something new to us. And I'm not going to say it's been all glorious because our kitchen is fairly small and we're finding rhythms, what one person does better than another person. And it's a process. But the point is, if you enlist somebody else to walk through this with you, you're going to keep each other accountable and you're going to help each other out. And so even, if it's 10 o'clock at night and you say, oh man, I'm craving chocolate, you can go get the fresh salsa that you just made out of the fridge and have a couple tortilla chips with salsa instead of that. So you'll help each other out in amazing ways. So prayer and then accountability partner. And that's just going to make this change that you're trying to do a little easier and hopefully long lasting, because change isn't worth doing. I mean, it's worth doing. All change is worth doing, and you try to do it. And if you quit drinking for 3 months, you've quit drinking for 3 months. But ultimately, the goal is to make it a much longer thing and make it a lifestyle change that this is who you are. You become who you want to be. And then it's not a big decision every day to do this because it just is who you are. Hopefully that helps. If it does, let me know. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for listening. This has been Little Things, because in God's kingdom, the little things are the big things.